What if fear isn't your enemy, but a faithful guardian who never learned when to rest? You've been fighting fear your whole life, but what if it's been trying to protect you all along? Imagine your mind as a house, not just any house, not the bright, welcoming rooms you show to visitors, but the real house, the one with doors you keep closed, rooms you avoid, spaces you pretend don't exist. In one of those rooms, fear lives. It's been there longer than you remember, longer than you'd care to admit. It's not violent. It doesn't demand attention with alarms or screams. It just waits, pacing softly, listening, guarding, protecting. Fear remembers everything. Every time you were hurt, every rejection that stung, every moment you felt unseen, unheard, unloved, every door that slammed shut, every relationship that ended, every risk that didn't pay off, every shadow in the hall that made you flinch. It has cataloged it all, built a database, created rules to prevent it from happening again. And it has a voice, not loud, not commanding, not the dramatic villain you imagine, just present, persistent, insistent. Be careful, it says. Don't step too far. Remember what happens if you trust too easily. You've been hurt before. Don't forget. Step closer, not to confront it, not to fight it, not to shame it into leaving, just to see it. Look at fear, really look. Notice how it moves, how it lingers near windows, always watching for threats, how it arranges objects in perfect order, trying to control chaos, how it checks the locks. Again, and then again. It's exhausted. Can you see that? It's been standing guard for years, decades maybe, since you were young, since the first time something hurt you, and you decided never again. Fear is trying to do something essential, protect you, guard you from harm, preserve the fragile parts of your being that can't withstand another breaking. It believes it's keeping you alive, and maybe, for a time, it did. But it has grown. What started as protection became a fortress. What began as caution became paralysis. And sometimes, without you noticing, protection becomes confinement. Sometimes the walls of this room grow taller than the danger outside. The locks multiply, the windows narrow, the space contracts, and fear begins to shape your entire house, quietly, imperceptibly, until you realize you haven't left this room in years. You've been living in the space fear carved out, following the rules it wrote, believing the stories it tells about what's safe and what's not. And the world outside, it's been waiting. But fear convinced you it's not worth the risk. Fear is never alone. It brings company. It always does. Anxiety hums in the corners, turning every possibility into a potential catastrophe. Hesitation folds into the hallway, whispering, "Wait, not yet, maybe later." Doubt sits silently on the stairwell, questioning every choice before you make it. Worry paces the upper floors, rehearsing disasters that haven't happened. Each has a voice. Each wants something. Each is a part of the orchestra you've tried to ignore, drown out, wish away. But here's the truth fear doesn't want you to know. These voices are not enemies. They are messengers, misunderstood, misinterpreted, treated like threats when they're actually signals. Fear doesn't exist to stop you. It exists to signal your edges, to remind you where your boundaries are, what has mattered, what you have survived, to show you what's precious enough to protect. But left unchecked, left unexamined, left to run the entire house, the room becomes a prison. Protection becomes isolation. Safety becomes stagnation. And you forget you were always allowed to leave. Step closer to the window. You've avoided it for so long. Fear told you not to look, told you what's out there will hurt you. But what if you just opened it? Your hand reaches for the latch. Fear notices. It stiffens, not in anger, in alarm. Wait, it says. Remember why we closed it. But you open it anyway, just a crack, just enough to let air in. Fear doesn't vanish. It doesn't scream. It doesn't attack you for disobeying. It adjusts. See how it softens when acknowledged. When you don't fight it, but don't obey it blindly either. How it leans instead of pacing. How the tension in the room releases just slightly. How the space breathes differently when you meet it with gentleness instead of force. Notice the subtle choreography. Hesitation retreats a step. Anxiety softens its edge, no longer screaming, but whispering. Doubt still lingers, it always will, but it no longer blocks the doorway entirely. You are still safe. Fear is still here, but now you are moving through the space, not trapped by it. You're not banishing fear. You're learning to live with it without letting it run everything. That's the difference. That's the shift. Not transcendence, not fearlessness, not some fantasy of courage that never feels afraid, just movement with fear present, but not in control. Sit down. Not to fight, not to fix, just to listen. Fear has been speaking this whole time, but you've been too busy trying to silence it to hear what it's actually saying. Listen now. I am your memory, it says. I hold every hurt you've survived, every loss you've endured, every betrayal you've weathered. I am your protection. I know what broke you before. I'm trying to keep it from breaking you again. I am your guide. I show you what matters by showing you what you're afraid to lose. Fear doesn't need to vanish. It only needs to be seen clearly, understood, respected, not obeyed blindly, not worshipped, not allowed to dictate every choice, but seen, acknowledged, thanked for its service. Fear is a mirror. It reflects what is precious, what matters, what you have loved deeply enough that its absence would hurt. You're not afraid of public speaking because you're weak. You're afraid because being seen matters to you. You're not afraid of intimacy because you're broken. You're afraid because connection is sacred and you've been burned before. Fear is a teacher, a silent companion, a voice that whispers, I will protect you if you let me guide, not cage you. And maybe that's the agreement you make, not to eliminate fear, but to change its role, from prison guard to advisor, from dictator to counselor, from the voice that stops you to the voice that informs you but doesn't control you. Step back now. Look at the whole house. Not just fear's room, but all of them. Notice the house is alive. Each room has its inhabitant, each voice, joy, anger, sadness, love, and fear plays its note. Joy sings in the bright rooms, reminding you what's possible. Anger drums in the lower levels, demanding what's right. Sadness flows through the quiet halls, teaching you depth. Love holds the foundation, steady and certain, and fear keeps watch, always, forever vigilant. Together they form a choir. No one is dominant, no one is silenced. They create harmony through recognition, through being heard, through being allowed. You don't need to control the melody. You don't need to make them sing in perfect unison. You only need to listen, to let each voice have its moment, its space, its truth. Fear joins the chorus now, not to dominate the song, but to complete it, to add the depth that only caution can provide, the gravity that only vulnerability creates. And you realize this is not a battle. This was never a battle. This is a choir. You've been conducting it all along, not by silencing the voices you don't like, but by learning to hear the whole song. Step back. The room is still. The voices are calm. You have not banished fear. You have welcomed it. And in this acceptance, in this recognition, that fear is not your enemy, but your protector learning to trust you, the house, your mind, expands. There's space now. Space to move. Space to breathe. Space to live. Space to be fully alive with every voice intact, not silenced, not suppressed, not exiled, just integrated, harmonized, heard. And in this quiet harmony, you hear it clearly for the first time. The choir has always been within you, waiting, not for you to fix yourself, not for you to transcend emotion, not for you to become someone else, just waiting for you to listen, fully, completely, with compassion for every voice.